On this episode of Tim's Garage, we're going to be fitting the front mount intercooler. Well, due to a drum playing son who is getting extremely good at it but is also extremely loud, was unable to get any voiceovers for this live, so we're doing a full voiceover dub. What we've been working towards is fitting the front part of the car, just so we're not going to have any fitment issues down the track. And to do this, we've been able to firstly fit the radiator. We had to do a little bit of fab work to make that fit, just because of where the turbo sat, and I had to offset the radiator just a little bit to the side. But we also decided to fit the transmission cooler at the same time, the same transmission cooler we bought for the 250 Crossflow when we drove it back from Sydney. We spent some money on that, got a good one from the guys at MS Motorsport Connection in Sydney. Those guys are fantastic, have really high quality gear and equipment, and so we bought the transmission cooler and all the fittings and stuff from there. So we spent the money so we could reuse it, so we are going to reuse it. Once doing that, we did save on some money by using the intercooler kit, which we got from the wreckers, and started to repurpose some of that. Firstly, we tried to use the existing brackets to make that fit, but just had some leftover steel lying around that I got from mate Josh from Josh's garage, and was able to fab just some fittings and mounted that at the two top and lower points. From there, we were able to look at where the piping was going to run, and the benefit of having a full kit that came from a Bug-Eye WRX was that we're able to find some fairly unique bends and curves for what was $50 when we bought that kit. So what have we done so far? So you can see we've found the mounts. It's awesome when you label stuff. Down here is the box of parts that came off the car when we pulled it apart, and you can see there's labels and stuff everywhere, which is just the bomb when it's been so long between pulling it apart and putting it back together. And I was able to find the radiator mounts, which had brand new rubber on them anyway before we made the trip, when we replaced the old radiator with the new one, which is cool. So that's back in. Radiator's got enough play if it needs it. Maybe not that end, maybe I need to loosen them off a bit, but the radiator's in, which is great. We've mounted the transmission cooler there, which sort of fits, and the idea was to get the maximum effect of cooling out of everything up here as we could. Then we've mounted the intercooler. That was an existing bracket that we repurposed. That one's just a piece of old hingy stuff that we've used. Mounted it top and bottom, and so that's pretty solid. We've also given it, we've used the rest of our silicon that we had. Some was lying around from previous jobs. Others were already with the kit that we bought. This is a Bug-Eye WRX kit. Just cut off a couple of pieces to try and make it fit. There's still, these two aren't not going to line up, so I need to get something else, and I think I'm going to buy a joiner, come straight out of there into a right angle, another piece of straight pipe, which should line us up to here pretty well, I reckon. Over the hot side, so that's the cold side. Hot side, we've rotated the turbo straight down, cut a hole in there, which I need to make a little bit bigger. It's not quite big enough, but that's all right. Comes out there, you can see hot side pipe goes to there, and another joiner, and that will fit, which is pretty neat, I reckon, for half what we've got lying around the house, half a cheap buy. And yeah, and as well as having a really messy shed, that's pretty good. That looks awesome. We've just put those mounts inside. I've still got to do a little bit of a trim on that side to make it fit right, just on the guard. It's not quite there, but other than that, that's fitting pretty snug. It's not rubbing anywhere. Just a little bit there, and just a little bit there on the inside. Other than that, this is all sitting free, not rubbing on anything, which is great. Made sure there's plenty of space in there for the latch. Latch fits on this side for the bonnet, so that should fit in there well. And we've just reused as much stuff as we can, so pretty happy with that. So onward and upward, keep moving. Well, there we go. Intercooler is fitted. Let's have a look at this thing and see what the fitment looks like. From the front, you can see it's actually, obviously it's not on the ground, but you can see it actually fits fairly nicely. I'll have to move the brackets around. You can see there, they are sticking through pretty amazingly ugly right there, so we'll move them. But they all fit. The cutaways are working pretty well. It's actually not touching too badly there. I may take that a little bit more on the bumper. This side is touching, but once again I may trim this all the way to the edge there, but that won't be too bad. And I may end up just putting a mesh or something. We'll see if I can be bothered. Otherwise, I actually don't mind it being a bit visible. But let me talk you through how the plumbing works. It comes out of the turbo, comes through the side of the engine bay there. We'll need to cut that just a little bit more, just a little bit. It's not touching, but if this engine wobbles at all, which I'm assuming it will, that will then touch onto the silicon. So I'll make that a little bit wider, but it drops straight down out of the engine bay, and then comes out, as you can see there, flicks around. At the moment, because I don't have the ability to get aluminium welding done, I'm just using bends, and the silicon I have, I've almost run out of clamps, which is an entire tub full of offcuts for years of doing projects. Almost used them all. But we can see it comes through there, does a 90 degree into the intercooler. Eventually I will get matching silicon colours because I do want it to be a little bit nice, especially from the front. Through our $50 Wreckers intercooler, comes out of there, bends around with this awesome bend that fits straight through. Originally we cut that hole in the base of it because we're going to mount the turbo down there at one point. But we've made use of that, and we still have the piece of steel, so we'll rebuild that in, cut a hole in the steel and weld that back into place. But then it just runs up and into the throttle body, all good to go. Lots and lots of joiners, lots of bends and all those things. Look, eventually, if the time comes when we are allowed to see other human beings, that will of course end up being a nice 90 degree angle bent with the aluminium. I've got a friend who's offered to come and have a look at it and help me with some of that work, which would be cool. And we'll be able to do one join there, bend it down, possibly use a HDI clamp. Love those clamps, they work really well. Like those guys, they build good cost-effective kits, and that'll fit in through there. So at the moment it's pieced together, but it gives us an idea. I feel like I could actually start it if the engine would run and everything was plumbed up, and be okay as long as I didn't put stupid amounts of boost through it. What I haven't done is bead rolled at any of the ends that I've cut from my selection of stuff, because I don't have a bead roller, which once again feel like it'd be okay unless I put any serious amounts of boost into it. But yeah, she is. It's pretty cool looking. I'll paint the intercooler black. Is it the most effective heat thing? I think there's been a few videos on that. It's probably not, but it looks cool, and I want to be a little bit stealthy with this, a bit of a sleeper with the project, so we'll paint that black. Other than that, it's all there, it's all mounted. We'll paint everything black, of course, before we do the final build. All the tabs and everything will be all nice and schmicked up, but there we go. So what is next? Well, that is the loom right there. We've got the entire loom for the car that we ripped out of the Sora. Like everything, every single part of it is sitting there. If we go and have a look inside the car, besides motorbike helmets, there is the computer for the original car and original engine, which is cool. And we can see the looms hanging out there, so we're about ready to start putting that together, which will be cool. We're looking at the fuel system back here, so one of the jobs that is also about to dive into is the fuel system. Probably talked about this before, I think, on the last video, but there's the stock fuel. With the stock fuel system, there is the stock fuel pickup with the Sora in-tank fuel pump. We've joined the wires, and that will connect to this, which is that's the fuel loom. And if we go into here, we've got some of our our fittings, our fuel fittings, and a regulator if we end up using that, but also hoses and even more fittings ready to go for that. So between electrics and fuel system, that should give us enough to do. Yeah, so between the fuel system and the electrics of the car, they're the next two big projects. In the meantime, one of the things that I'm looking at doing is, I haven't finished mounting that sump. There was a video where I did the sump swap. I resourced another sump but didn't have the bolts for it, so I'll be looking at doing that, seeing if I'm able to do it without pulling it out of the car. I need to fix the water pickup for the turbo. That's one thing I haven't done. And then once those things are done, I've got to think, so many little bits and pieces that need to be pulled together. Then we're actually going to pull off the tappet covers. Did have an oil leak in the gasket covers, the tappet covers, so we're going to pull them off and have a look. We'll paint them up, clean them up, put on new covers and those things, and then once that's done, it's starting to get serious. So if they're out and we're cleaning them up, we might as well put in things for the very last time for this build, which means we're putting them properly. So that'd be cool. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time when I'll either be doing the fuel or the electrics. But thanks for watching. Stay home, stay safe, and we'll see you next time on Tim's Garage.